Hey guys, Brian with you, Fishing Hype Outdoors. Just chilling down here in the basement. It's hot as crap outside, and had some questions on my setups for swim jig fishing. So I thought I'd go over that today with you. I've got basically two rods that I use for throwing a swim jig, and basically divided up into if I'm fishing tight to cover and say going down a bank, maybe a river or even on the lake, and you're going down the bank and you're fishing docks, you're fishing laydowns or around bushes or something, just something where you're up a little bit closer to the bank, a little bit tighter to the cover. I'll throw a 7-foot rod. I don't get any really a whole lot shorter than that. 7.1, somewhere in there. This one here happens to be this is a 7.1 heavy with a fast tip, the ARK rod's the Invoker, and I want a rod with good backbone, but it has to have a good soft, a fast, extra fast type tip, something that's going to bend really easy. You can see that's got I don't know if you can see it, probably go like this a little better. The biggest reason for that, the bait's not going to weigh a lot. I mean, you're throwing a quarter. A lot of times if I'm throwing real shallow and up around wood and on the bank and I'm not in real deep water, I'm going to throw a quarter. 3/8 is what I'll throw more out in the open water. But that lighter jig, you're going to put a trailer on it. But I want to be able to make an underhand roll cast a lot of the times, just like you would with a spinnerbait. And I want that tip to load and be able to throw that bait and make a real accurate cast. If I've got too stiff of a rod, it's real hard to get that good roll action and to load the rod right. So 7-foot, 7.1, 7.2, medium heavy to a heavy action with a soft tip is what I'm looking for. And when I'm going to pair that generally, and if I'm fishing around wood and close to cover, I'm going to throw Sunline Sniper. I'm going to throw 16-pound fluorocarbon is what I'm going to wind up throwing. I'll even throw that in like loose grass and that sort of thing, but definitely around wood and docks and stuff like that, I'm definitely going to throw the fluorocarbon, and I want to throw it on a faster gear ratio reel, a 7-to-1 at the slowest. I like some of the new 7.9s, 8.0s, that are out there. You're throwing this bait in shallow water. It's not out in deep water, so you're trying to cover water quick with it. And a lot of times what I'll also do, where a swim jig really comes in and plays real cool with, is you can throw it out across some of these mats, these floating mats of vegetation, whether it's duckweed, across tops of the pads, matted out hydrilla, whatever it is, and you can keep that bait up there and act just almost as if it's a frog. And then when you hit a hole, you can drop that bait and let it go down in that hole and pick it back up out of there and keep reeling it and keep it going right across the top of the vegetation, just as if you're fishing a frog. So you can use that bait in so many different applications. So I want a little faster gear ratio reel for that. But overall, when I'm up close and in cover, that's the setup I'm going to use. 7 foot to about a 7.2. I don't like to get a whole lot longer than that, because then to me, I just feel like I got too clumsy of a rod out there and trying to fish that tight cover. But fluorocarbon line, a little bit lighter jig, and definitely a faster reel. When I get in more open water, fishing a lot of grass, especially when I'm down on Okeechobee in the winter times, down there fishing around all that grass, and got a chance even at catching a really big fish, obviously, down there, I'm going to switch over to braided line. Generally, anytime I can get away with throwing braided line around grass or vegetation, I always do. I do not want to throw it around wood. But I'm gonna throw braid instead versus the mono, and I'm gonna throw a little bit longer rod. I like to go up to a 7.5, even an 8-foot rod at times, but most of the time I'm gonna go with a 7.5, another medium heavy. Sometimes you can get the right heavy action rod with the right tip, but a lot of times when you get that longer rod, you got to go down to a little softer rod. So this one here is the Sniper version from ARK. This is a 7.5-foot medium heavy, and it's got a really soft for a 7.5-foot rod. This has got a nice soft tip. Again, I can load that lighter bait and get a good cast with it out there, and with that braided line on that longer cast, I'm not worried about not getting a good hook set. and it's going to cut through the grass. And with that longer rod, if you making that long cast, because now I'm not worried about hitting that specific spot there, or getting it under the dock there, or under that bush, or whatever. I'm just trying to make long casts and cover a big expanse of a grass flat or whatever vegetation or whatever area you're fishing. And so I just want to make a long cast, not real accurate, and I want a long rod to be able to make that longer cast, but also pick up the slack. If you throw it out there and you make 2 cranks of the handle and boom, you got a fish on. I want that braided line to get a good solid hook set. I want that longer rod to get a nice long, better hook set. Pick up a lot more line, and I want a fast gear ratio reel again. I want to go with nothing less than a 7, usually a 7.9 or an 8, somewhere in there, to pick up that line real quick if that fish hits out there on the end. But those are kind of my 2 setups. If I'm fishing some grass flats, say if I'm more like in the northern states and I'm not fishing super thick grass, a lot of cabbage and maybe some milfoil or coontail or something that might be up there, I'll go probably with 18-pound fluorocarbon, maybe 20-pound fluorocarbon, because the water's just a lot cleaner up there, and I don't have you don't have that chance of catching that 8, 9, 10, 11-pound fish that you do in some of the southern states, especially in Florida, down on Gunnersville, Chickamauga, stuff like that. And those waters are a little bit dirtier down there, so I don't mind, that you can get away with throwing the braided line then. And if I can up north, in some of those cleaner lakes, I definitely would. Anytime you can fish vegetation and it's a little bit off color water and you can throw braid, you're better off doing that. But in those clean lakes up there, I generally try to throw the fluorocarbon. But those big flats out there, even up there, no matter what, if I'm not trying to hit something accurate and I want a nice long cast, go with a longer rod, 7.5-foot rod, get yourself some braided line and a fast gear ratio reel, and you'll definitely improve your fishing hookups and catch rates when you're throwing the swim jigs. So tight lines. I hope this stuff helped you out, and when you're out picking out rods and looking to do some fishing on the swim jigs, hopefully this will get you pointed in the right direction.